And gentlemen, I want you to listen to me right now. Not with your ears, but with your future. Listen with the part of you that knows you're meant for more. Because today, we're going to flip the script on your entire life. You've been walking around waiting for the breakthrough, waiting for the money, waiting for the opportunity, waiting for the moment to say, now I'm ready. But let me ask you this. What if the waiting is what's been costing you everything? Stop waiting to have the money, the resources, the recognition, or the permission before you become the person you're called to be. That mindset is a trap, a silent prison that keeps you tied to your current level. People spend years waiting for a breakthrough moment, not realizing that the moment they're waiting for is waiting for them. You don't get to a higher level and then change who you are. You change who you are first, and the level follows. It's not about faking success or pretending to be something you're not. It's about stepping into the identity that aligns with your vision. Most people are conditioned to think, when I get more money, then I'll invest. When I get more time, then I'll commit. When I feel confident, then I'll take the risk. But that's not how elevation works. That's how stagnation works. Success is not a reward for waiting. It's a response to action taken in advance of proof. Think about it. The seed doesn't wait to see the harvest before it pushes through the soil. It moves in faith, guided by its design, trusting that what it becomes will be greater than where it started. You're the same. If you want the outcome, you have to embody the process. Stop postponing your evolution until the conditions are perfect, because the conditions become perfect after you've made the decision to grow. Becoming is not comfortable. It demands that you confront parts of yourself that are deeply invested in staying the same. It challenges your habits, your circles, your language, and your routines. It means looking in the mirror and asking, is the way I live aligned with where I say I'm going? And if the answer is no, then something's got to change. Not later, not when it's convenient, now. You weren't born to live reactive. You were born to live responsive to the calling placed in your life. That means you move based on who you are becoming, not based on what you currently have. You set your schedule like your time is valuable. You carry yourself like your name means something. You make decisions like you're building a legacy, not just surviving a season. This is not preparation creates the capacity to receive, and capacity is what determines whether your next level will bless you or break you. If you haven't become the person capable of managing more, more will crush you. That's why it's critical to grow before you arrive, because you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your training. Becoming is the training ground. It's the internal infrastructure that holds up the external result. This is why your breakthrough is not delayed because of outside resistance. It's delayed because of inside permission. You're still waiting for validation, for certainty, for signs. But elevation never waits for consensus. It demands courage. And courage doesn't show up when the path is clear. It shows up when the path is unclear, but the calling is undeniable. You move first. The clarity comes after you decide. Every great transformation begins with a decision to become more before having more. That's the price. And you shift your standards, your energy, your focus, not because it's easy, but because it's required. The next level doesn't respond to excuses, it responds to identity. If you want to operate at a higher frequency, you have to become the kind of person who naturally produces those results regardless of current circumstances. It's easy to look around and blame the delay on conditions, on the economy, your background, your past mistakes, but conditions don't control your identity unless you allow them to. You're not waiting for the right time. The right time is waiting for you to show up with the right mindset. When you become the person who owns the vision, the resources start finding you. The opportunities start aligning. The doors start opening, not because the world changed, but because you did. Every result you desire is on the other side of who you're willing to become. That person isn't a fantasy. That person is already inside you waiting for permission to lead. So stop waiting for life to give you what only transformation can unlock. Becoming is the beginning of everything. You can't build a new future while dragging the weight of your past into every decision you make. Your actions, your habits, your mindset, they must reflect where you're going, not where you've been. Too many people make choices that are shaped by their past disappointments, rejections, and failures. They plan with hesitation, speak with doubt, and move with fear, not because they're incapable, but because they're still using the language of who they used to be. If you keep basing your actions on your history, you'll never break the cycle. The future requires a different version of you, one that's willing to make bold moves even when the past suggests otherwise. Your past may have taught you lessons, but it's not supposed to be your GPS. It was never meant to be the ceiling that defines your limits. It's just the floor you rise from. What you've been through isn't a blueprint for who you can become. People often say, I tried before and it didn't work. But that experience wasn't a prophecy, it was preparation. Failure only becomes a wall when you treat it like a destination. But when you take that same experience and align your next move with your vision, not your memory, you begin to build momentum in the right direction. Momentum doesn't come from familiarity, it comes from alignment. And alignment requires intentionality. Every action you take is either a vote for the future you want or the past you're trying to escape. It's not about what you feel like doing, it's about what your future requires. The question is no longer, do I feel ready? The question is this aligned with the identity I'm building? Because if your decisions are still trying to comfort your past instead of creating your future, you're going to stay stuck in cycles that look different but feel exactly the same. You can't talk about building wealth, freedom, and influence or purpose while operating with habits designed for survival. The you that barely made it through last year is not the same you that's going to thrive this year. You have to outgrow your own patterns. You have to stop answering calls from people who only remember who you used to be. Your destiny doesn't respond to your history. It responds to your intentional alignment. You don't need closure to move forward. You don't need perfect clarity. What you need is to anchor your life in vision. What you commit to must be filtered through the lens of, does this bring me closer to who I want to become? That's how you start to move with authority. That's how you stop second guessing every step. You start walking like you know exactly what you're building, even when you're still in the blueprint state. When you align your actions with your future, you start to build integrity with yourself. Integrity isn't just about morality, it's about wholeness. It's about making decisions that are consistent with your highest self. And when your actions and your identity are in agreement, you become unstoppable. You stop negotiating with fear. You stop asking small-minded people to approve your big vision. You stop apologizing for wanting more. Too many people are loyal to a version of themselves that's already expired. They're still defending beliefs that don't serve them, still rehearsing stories that limit them, still saying yes to things that drain them, not because they want to stay stuck, but because they've forgotten that every new level demands a new rhythm. You can't walk into your future with the pace and posture of your past. Something's got to shift. Every day is an opportunity to cast a vote for your future. That means you don't wait until you feel different. You move different. You make the call. You say no. You invest in the skill. You leave the room. You rise early. You forgive faster. You show up. These aren't random acts of discipline. They're deliberate choices that signal to life itself, I am no longer available for the patterns that kept me bound. Everything you want is built on the other side of alignment. And alignment is not a one-time decision. It's a lifestyle, a daily recalibration, a constant awareness of whether your habits, your circle, your words, and your focus are echoing your destiny or your damage. The moment you stop living from your past and start acting like your future is real, you begin to collapse the distance between where you are and where you were born to be. You cannot carry a massive vision with a limited mindset. Vision is the blueprint, but mindset is the engine that drives it forward. If your thinking is too small, you'll sabotage big opportunities. If your beliefs are rooted in fear, you'll shrink yourself when it's time to rise. There are people walking around with $1 million dreams, but operating with $10 thinking. And that gap is the reason their future feels stuck in neutral. A big vision requires a mind that can handle discomfort, uncertainty, and delayed gratification. It requires the ability to think beyond your current resources and beyond your past experiences. You must learn to see with clarity, even when you don't yet have confirmation. You must train your mind to see not just what is, but what could be. Because if your vision is going to expand your life, your mindset has to expand first to carry the weight of it. What most people don't realize is that your mindset sets the ceiling. If you believe you can only earn a certain amount, lead a certain way, or grow to a certain point, you will unconsciously create circumstances to reinforce that belief. You will stop short of breakthroughs. You will hesitate when you should leap. You'll be more committed to your limitations than your possibilities. Not because your vision is wrong, but because your mindset, you must stretch your thinking to match the territory you're trying to take. This is the internal work. The mindset shift that says, I am capable, I am worthy, I am responsible for stewarding something greater. If your mind doesn't shift, your results won't either. You'll keep finding reasons why it's too hard, too risky, too soon. But the truth is, the problem isn't the size of the vision. It's the size of the belief behind it. You were never meant to stay confined in thoughts shaped by survival. Vision was given to you to elevate your life, to pull you into a greater version of yourself. But if your mind is still wrapped in the fear of failure, the need for approval, or the habit of playing small, the vision will feel overwhelming instead of exciting. That's not a sign to quit. It's a signal to grow. You don't shrink the vision to fit your mindset. You expand the mindset to fit the vision. A massive vision will expose every crack in your thinking. It will reveal where you doubt yourself, where you self-sabotage, where you procrastinate. But that exposure isn't punishment, it's preparation. The vision is stretching you for what's next. It's challenging you to shed the thinking that kept you comfortable so you can operate at the level your purpose demands. Because elevation begins in the mind long before it shows up in result. Every next level of your life will demand a new depth of belief. Not just surface level confidence, but rooted conviction that you are the one for the job, that you were made for this assignment, that your past doesn't disqualify you, that the obstacles ahead are not there to block you, but to build you. This kind of belief doesn't come passively. It comes from intentional, daily work. You train your mind like you train a muscle through repetition, resistance, and resilience. You must be willing to let go of the small thoughts that feel safe. The vision won't fit inside a mindset built on scarcity. It won't thrive in an environment of doubt. If your thoughts are always circling what might go wrong, how hard it will be, or what people will think, then your vision will constantly be under attack from the inside. And the most dangerous enemy is not the one outside your door, it's the one living in your own head. This is why growth feels so uncomfortable, because you are being called to rewire how you think, how you see, and how you move. The vision demands that you become someone new, not someone fake, not someone else, but someone fully aligned with your purpose. You're not just chasing the result, you're becoming the kind of person who can hold it, sustain it, multiply it, and lead others into it. That requires a different mentality entirely. Your vision is trying to show you what's possible. It's inviting you into a life that exceeds your current limitations. But until your mindset rises to match it, the vision will remain out of reach. You don't wait for your circumstances to catch up. You renew your mind to lead the way. When your mindset rises, your life follows. When your thinking expands, your capacity expands. The size of your vision can only be matched by the strength of your belief in it. Faith isn't wishful thinking. It's not sitting around hoping the universe will deliver something good if you just stay positive long enough. Faith is conviction. It's movement. It's the quiet but unshakable confidence that what you've been shown, what you've envisioned, is already finished. And your job is to walk it out. Hope waits for signs. Faith moves without them. Hope says, I believe it could happen. Faith says, I know it's already done, so I'm acting like it. You can tell the difference between someone operating in hope and someone moving in faith by the way they move. Hope delays. Faith decides. Hope asks for permission. Faith walks into the room like it belongs there. Hope keeps checking for confirmation. Faith is the confirmation. Faith doesn't look for the path to appear before taking the step. Faith takes the step and trusts the path will show up under its feet. When you're walking by faith, you start building before you see the materials. You start preparing before the door opens. You study for the position you haven't been offered yet. You invest in the business that hasn't made a dollar yet. You show up with excellence even when no one is watching. That's not fantasy. That's forward thinking, rooted in spiritual authority. Faith is when your actions reveal your belief more than your words ever could. Faith means showing up consistently, not because everything is working perfectly, but because you're anchored in something bigger than the evidence. It's easy to talk big when the results match your energy. It's something else entirely to keep showing up when nothing seems to be moving, when the account is empty, when the doors are closed, when the audience is silent. That's when true faith is measured, not in the good days, but in the gap between promise and proof. Real faith is disruptive. It will challenge every part of you that's still addicted to certainty. It will require that you trust without visibility, plan without confirmation, and lead without applause. It will force you to divorce from comfort and familiarity. And in that process, your identity gets refined. You start to see that your faith was never about results. It was about alignment. You begin to move as someone who's already victorious, not someone still trying to prove their worth. Most people confuse faith with waiting, but waiting without movement is often fear wearing a spiritual disguise. Faith waits with motion. Faith says, I may not be there yet, but I'm not standing still. Faith builds the ark before the rain. Faith digs the well before the water flows. Faith prepares the field before the harvest arrives. It's not passive, it's proactive. Because faith knows that the outcome is already spoken for. And now the process just has to catch up. Faith is when you write the book before the followers come. Launch the course before the clients show up. Book the venue before you know how the seats will be filled. That's the difference between vision and fantasy. Vision, backed by faith, moves in obedience. Fantasy waits for perfect conditions. The moment you stop waiting for reassurance and start moving as if it's done, that's when things start to shift. There's power in your posture. The way you walk into a room, the way you carry your schedule, the way you speak about your goals, all of it signals the level of faith you're operating in. Do you speak as someone who's still trying to convince themselves, or someone who knows what's coming and is just getting ready? You don't attract what you want. You attract what you believe you're ready for. And readiness is a product of movement. Faith isn't loud. It doesn't need to announce itself. It just acts. It just builds. It just prepares. It just obeys. There's a quiet authority to someone moving in faith. They don't need to explain their every step. They're not looking for everyone to understand. They're walking with instructions others can't hear. That's what makes faith so powerful. It doesn't rely on external validation to function. It's rooted in divine alignment. When you move in faith, you stop second-guessing yourself. You stop entertaining every voice that questions your pace or your path. You stop negotiating with fear and start making agreements with your future. Faith reprograms your default setting. It changes how you interpret silence. It changes how you view obstacles. Because once you believe it's already done, you stop acting like someone who's hoping and start building like someone who's certain. Pressure isn't a sign that something is wrong. It's often the greatest indicator that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It doesn't show up in quiet, predictable environments. It shows up when the weight increases, when the demands rise, when everything inside you wants to retreat, but something greater in you pushes forward. Pressure reveals potential. It stretches capacity. It tests alignment. You don't face pressure because you're weak. You face it because you're carrying something strong. Every great breakthrough is preceded by pressure. Every next level is guarded by it. You don't get access without resistance. That resistance exists to refine you, not to reject you. When you're under pressure, it's not because the vision is too big, it's because you're being stretched to become big enough to carry it. If your dream doesn't put pressure on your thinking, your habits, your relationships, and your comfort zones, then it's not pulling you toward greatness. It's just a decoration. Pressure clarifies who you are. It strips away the excuses, the distractions, and the surface level commitments. It reveals what's real. When everything is on the line, you find out if your vision is just a cute idea or a deep conviction. You discover if you're chasing applause or walking in assignment. You learn the difference between convenience and calling. And when that pressure hits, you either rise or you revert. But either way, you learn. The most dangerous thing about pressure is not the difficulty, it's the temptation to mislabel it. If you call it failure, you'll quit. If you call it punishment, you'll resent it. But if you call it preparation, you'll embrace it. What you call a situation determines how you show up in it. You have to see pressure as part of the process. You have to train your mind to respond to it like an athlete in the gym. The weight is not there to break you, it's there to build you. There's a reason diamonds don't form without pressure. There's a reason champions are forged in the fire. Pressure makes you better, stronger, wiser. It forces innovation. It unlocks hidden grit. It activates resilience you didn't know you had. Pressure says, you asked for more, now become the person who can handle it. And that becoming is not always beautiful. It's messy. It's painful. It's exhausting. but it's essential. Too many people ask for elevation but resist the friction that makes it possible. They want greatness without grinding. They want legacy without labor. But pressure is the toll you pay for transformation. You cannot grow into who you're meant to be and remain who you've always been. Something has to give. And that tension, that pull between where you are and where you're going, that is the exact space where pressure lives. You need pressure to produce. Nothing significant is born without it. The pressure you feel to rise, to deliver, to stay committed, that's proof that there's something inside you worth fighting for. The reason you feel the weight is because you're carrying something valuable. The pressure doesn't come from people playing small. It comes for those who dare to believe in something bigger than themselves. The presence of pressure is the absence of complacency. When you lean into pressure instead of running from it, you begin to grow in ways that talent alone could never accomplish. You gain clarity, you gain power, you gain depth, and perhaps most importantly, you gain perspective. You begin to realize that what felt like a burden was actually a blessing, that what was meant to stretch you ended up strengthening you, that the thing you thought was pushing you down was actually forcing you to rise. Pressure is a signal that something is shifting. It's often the final test before a door opens, the last push before the breakthrough. It's not a mistake, it's an invitation to evolve, to lead, to endure, to trust. And the moment you stop seeing pressure as a problem and start seeing it as part of the process, everything changes. Your posture changes, your pace changes. You stop looking for escape routes and start looking for endurance strategies. You weren't made for easy, you were made for impact. And impact comes with pressure. It comes with weight. It comes with expectation. But that's the cost of carrying something that matters. That's the price of becoming someone who doesn't just talk about potential, but lives it. Every time the pressure rises, it's proof that purpose is present. Because pressure doesn't visit empty vessels. It presses on what's full, what's ready, what's ripe for release. Everything you see in your life today is the harvest of a seed that was planted in your identity. Before the money came, before the business grew, before the doors opened, there was a belief, a way of seeing yourself, a conviction about who you are and what you're capable of. Identity is not a detail. It is the root system. It's what everything else grows from. And if the seed is compromised, so is the fruit. Too many people chase results without ever checking what kind of identity they're rooted in. You don't get wealthy by accident. You don't build influence or mastery or legacy by coincidence. It starts with who you believe you are. Not on the surface, but deep down when no one's watching. If your internal script still says you're unworthy, not good enough, or not ready, then it doesn't matter how many strategies you implement or how much motivation you consume. You will unconsciously sabotage anything that contradicts the identity you've agreed to live under. The results you keep seeing are just reflections of the person you keep being. People think they have a productivity problem, but what they really have is an identity mismatch. They set goals for the version of themselves they want to become, but their habits are still loyal to the version they've outgrown. Until you upgrade the root, you'll keep producing the same kind of fruit. You can't outperform your identity. You will always gravitate back to what you believe is true about you. That's why personal development without identity transformation is short-term. You can change your schedule, your circle, your income, but if your internal identity still says, I'm a struggler or I never follow through, then your results will eventually fall in line with that identity. It's not about what you do once. It's about who you are consistently. And that who is not determined by what people tell you, it's determined by what you deeply accept. Identity doesn't shift just because you want it to. It shifts when you start acting in alignment with who you're becoming, even before the results show up. That's where real transformation happens. When you show up to the gym, to the business, to the opportunity, not as someone trying to prove themselves, but as someone who's already convinced of their worth. That energy is different. That seed grows differently. That seed produces fruit that lasts. You have to ask yourself, what kind of identity have I been nurturing? One that expects struggle or one that expects favor? One that prepares for delay or one that moves with certainty? Your environment will eventually mirror your internal world. So if you're tired of the fruit, stop pruning the branches and start checking the seed. What identity did it come from? Was it rooted in fear or faith? Scarcity or abundance? Shame or purpose? The deeper the root, the stronger the fruit. When your identity is rooted in truth, in clarity and power, your results stop being random. You stop second guessing every move. You stop questioning whether you deserve success. Because you're no longer trying to earn value, you're operating from value. That shift changes everything. Your standards rise, your boundaries tighten, your vision gets sharper, and your results begin to reflect a person who no longer negotiates with mediocrity. You must learn to protect your identity the way a farmer protects good seed, because the world will try to contaminate it with doubt, comparison, and criticism. But you can't allow other people's fear to redefine your soil. The seed is too valuable. Your identity is the origin point of every strategy, every decision, every breakthrough. If you protect it, feed it, and nurture it, the results will come, not as flukes, but as the natural fruit of who you've become. Stop trying to manipulate the fruit without mastering the seed. Success, peace, influence, they all grow from the identity you've built in silence. Not the one you perform in front of others, not the one you post about, the one you carry in your core when things get hard, when the pressure is heavy, and when the winds are slow. That identity is what determines what multiplies in your life. That identity becomes the filter for everything you attract, allow, and achieve. What you build in public will never outlast what you believe in private. Your life is a mirror of your identity. The level you live at is the level you see yourself at. And if you want to change the outcome, you don't start with behavior. You start with belief. You replant. You redefine. You make a decision to live from the identity that matches your calling, not your conditioning. Because once the seed is right, the fruit takes care of itself. The world doesn't respond to who you say you are. It doesn't respond to your dreams, your declarations, or your desires. It responds to the version of you that you consistently act out. Your behavior broadcasts your identity louder than your words ever will. You may say you're confident, but if you move like you're afraid to be seen, the world will treat you accordingly. You may say you're a leader, but if you hesitate to make decisions or shrink from responsibility, you'll be overlooked. The version of you that shows up determines the opportunities that show up. When you carry yourself like you belong in the room, people treat you like you do. When you walk with the energy of authority, competence, and vision, the world mirrors that belief back to you. Most people are waiting to feel qualified before they move like they are. But that's not how it works. The feeling follows the action. You must decide how your future self shows up and then start showing up like that. That energy precedes the result. It's the signal that tells everything around you what level you're operating on. People don't just listen to what you say, they read your presence. They pick up on your posture, your pace, your patterns. And so does life. Life has a way of reflecting your inner certainty or your inner confusion. If you treat your goals like they're negotiable, they will stay out of reach. If you move like a person who expects to win, people will start to see you that way, even before you have anything to show for it. The power is not in pretending, it's in aligning your actions with your intention. You are always sending a message about who you believe you are, even if you're unaware of it. Your tone, your boundaries, your habits, your preparation, they all reflect your self-concept. And that self-concept teaches people how to treat you. If you constantly put yourself last, the world will too. If you speak with hesitation, you'll be questioned. But if you show up like someone who knows their value, who understands their assignment, who refuses to shrink to make others comfortable, you shift the atmosphere before you even speak. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. When you move like the future version of yourself, you collapse the distance between now and next. You make it easier for others to see what you already know is true. Most people are walking around waiting for permission, waiting for a title, waiting for proof. But the world doesn't give those things freely. It responds to posture, energy, certainty. When you act like someone who expects results, you start to attract them, not because you've earned everything, but because you've embodied the belief that you're becoming the person who can handle them. You're not being fake when you act like the person you're becoming. You're practicing. You're building the habits, the confidence, the structure that aligns with the next level. That's how all growth works. You don't become a master by waiting to feel ready. You become a master by training like one, thinking like one, committing like one. And the world begins to take notice, not because you're perfect, but because you're consistent, because you keep showing up with the identity of someone who takes themselves seriously. Every room you enter is evaluating how you see yourself. Every opportunity is watching how you handle responsibility. You don't rise by accident. You rise because your behavior becomes undeniable. Because even if people doubt your past, they can't ignore your presence. You command attention not by being loud, but by being aligned. Not by overcompensating, but by being rooted in clarity. When you stop second-guessing yourself, others stop second-guessing you too. But you minimize yourself, the world doesn't fill in the gap with greatness, it fills it in with neglect. You teach people how to see you by the way you see yourself. And your consistent actions are the clearest expression of that vision. If you constantly procrastinate, the world sees you as unreliable. If you show up early, prepared, and focused, the world responds with trust. Results aren't just given to the most talented, they're given to the most aligned, the most consistent, the most committed to acting like it's already done. You can't play small and expect life to give you big things. You cannot move like a victim and expect to be treated like a victor. You cannot carry the energy of doubt and expect doors to open with confidence. Every day is a vote for the kind of person you believe yourself to be. And the world, your peers, your clients, your audience, your future partners are all watching how you vote. They believe you when you believe you. The secret is not becoming someone else, it's becoming the version of you that's already inside, waiting for permission to emerge. That version doesn't wait to be chosen. They choose themselves. They walk with purpose. They speak with certainty. They make decisions like their future depends on it, because it does. The world is not ignoring you. The world is responding to you. And when you change how you show up, you change what shows up for you.